That's not what I read. The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years.
Oh no, nothing really comes to mind. I was like, Shijing, listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball to Sunny.
Sunny Houston just got roasted so intensely by Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus that it looked like she might file a lawsuit against reality itself. What started as another smug, hot topic moment quickly spiraled into a dramatic meltdown that nobody saw coming. And honestly, you've never witnessed Sunny collapse quite this spectacularly. Gutfeld showed up with razor-sharp sarcasm, Tyrus came armed with solid receipts, and Sunny, well, she delivered the crash that sent the whole thing toppling over like a wobbly chair. If you thought daytime TV was even slightly safe, think again, because this takedown hit so hard it could crack the actual table on The View. Get ready, because this dive is about to get wild.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe.
Bunny Houston sat at that familiar table, dressed in full-blown righteous indignation and polished Chanel, ready to deliver another dramatic lecture like she was trying out for Professor of Performative Outrage at the imaginary woke university. But instead of receiving applause or admiration, she marched straight into a buzzsaw of cold, unfiltered reality delivered by Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus from an entirely different studio, which somehow made the impact even sharper. One moment she was confidently acting as if her opinion was absolute truth, and the next the internet turned her long monologue into a viral meme titled "When Delusion Meets Data," proving how fast things can crumble when confidence meets actual substance.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that.
It wasn't The View anymore. It was a full-blown roast session, and Sunny walked in without a drop of sunscreen while the heat got turned all the way up. Gutfeld didn't even need to set foot in the building to completely vaporize her argument. All it took was one viral moment, some sharp logic, and a healthy serving of sarcasm that sliced straight through her point. And Tyrus didn't raise his voice once. Instead, he raised the stakes so smoothly it felt like watching someone calmly stack dynamite under a paper house. While Sunny wagged her finger from her talk show throne, Tyrus brought receipts that made her entire narrative look fragile enough to tear like tissue paper. And this wasn't even her first time treating her chair on The View like a dramatic confession booth no one requested, because she often talks as if she's narrating the fall of civilization one brunch menu at a time.
Sure, all that, and the price of butter. Sunny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, asking that question, it might have been a closer election. But when oh no, nothing really comes to mind, I was like, Shijing, listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, They instead are now doubling down.
She once boldly suggested that certain voters of color weren't truly capable of understanding their own political beliefs unless those beliefs conveniently matched hers, as if she were the official gatekeeper of what counts as a valid opinion. In her world, anyone who disagrees must be confused, brainwashed, or tragically unworthy of an invite to her imaginary book club. But when someone keeps talking from the top of a moral high horse, eventually those stilts start wobbling, and sooner or later, someone knocks them out from under them with force. That's exactly what Gutfeld and Tyrus managed to do without even stepping onto the set, firing off inconvenient truths from a distance, while Sunny reacted like someone who mistakenly brought a foam bat to a chainsaw duel.
Their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter. So instead, let's check out this clip from Monday's episode of The View when the ladies put their science caps on and discuss the solar eclipse.
What made the entire moment even more unbelievable was how quickly the show crumbled under pressure, almost as if the studio lights dimmed the second reality started creeping in, yet the co-hosts continued clinging to their script like backup dancers in a musical titled Delusion, forcing the performance to stay afloat while Whoopi delivered a solemn nod. Anna Navarro sighed dramatically like she'd just watched society collapse, and Joy Behar tilted her head with the polite curiosity of someone pretending to listen while secretly planning lunch. That's the strange magic of The View. Not a panel, but a synchronized routine where agreement is expected, dissent is treated like a contagious virus, and facts are quietly tucked away like contraband. Watch closely and you'll notice that every time Sunny says something wildly off track, the others stare with the same eager patience as golden retrievers waiting for treats, nodding in such perfect rhythm you'd swear there was a metronome behind the camera. And when things start to fall apart, the show instantly pivots to emotional appeals, dramatic victimhood, or a sudden unrelated headline meant to distract the audience just enough to survive the moment. If criticism hits too hard, they shout misinformation, sprinkle in buzzwords like dangerous rhetoric, and wrap the whole mess in passive-aggressive elitism to smooth things over. But this time, the collapse was too massive, too obvious, and way too loud to hide.
No, nothing really comes to mind. I was like, Ching, listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball to Sunny.
Because Gutfeld and Tyrus, bless them, didn't bother following the strange daytime rules of The View. They stepped in from the 5 with the confidence of a comedy tag team armed with common sense and cultural awareness, dropping reality bombs so casually it felt like they were handing out reminders instead of demolishing arguments. There was no shouting, no dramatic flailing, just calm and calculated precision that sliced straight through Sunny's points, while she reacted like someone desperately trying to swat facts out of the air before they landed. And nothing is more satisfying than watching someone who built a career on long monologues delivered into applause suddenly get hit with complete silence, the kind that exposes every weak spot at once. Sunny, of course, will return to that table tomorrow with a fresh take, another lengthy speech, and the same familiar glare, but deep down she knows that when a reality check hits that loudly, you don't simply bounce back, you simmer. That's exactly what happened as the panel unknowingly hit self-destruct, the conversation shifting from another predictable let's blame the world moment from Sunny Houston into unexpected comedic gold the second Gutfeld and Tyrus drifted into the discussion metaphorically and set the whole argument ablaze with a single matchstick of logic that no one on set was prepared to handle.
I think that women, white women in particular, want to protect the patriarchy here because it's to their benefit. Yeah. They want to make sure that their husbands do well. They want to make sure that their sons do well. They want to make sure that their children do well. And they want to make sure that they do well. Most of the women in some of these studies are married white women, and they do fall in line with what their husbands are doing.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist.
The topic was crime and policing in America, something Sunny approaches with the same intense fury she usually reserves for lukewarm lattes or disappointing Yelp reviews, launching into what felt like an emotional TED Talk for the theatrically uninformed. Between dramatic sighs, sharp finger-pointing, and sweeping declarations, she made it sound like policing was the root of all evil, crime was some misunderstood performance art, and the real issue was simply that the world wasn't listening to her enough. It was classic Sunny, full of moral fire yet completely empty of data, delivered with the smug certainty of someone who believes a trending hashtag counts as legitimate public policy. Then Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus stepped in, uninvited, uninterested in theatrics, and far more prepared, bringing a calm response loaded with numbers and wrapped in just enough sarcasm to crumble Sunny's argument on the spot. Gutfeld opened with a simple takedown, pointing out how the loudest voices shouting "defund the police" tend to live the farthest from the areas that need policing the most, acting as if private security is normal, while working class neighborhoods should experiment with social workers as backup, leaving Sunny blinking like someone forced to explain their internet password on live TV. The room didn't just lose air at that moment, it lost the entire script as her argument deflated in real time.
It's not even that. In The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sunny, and the, was it Bette Midler? What's her name? The broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back.
Tyrus jumped in next, delivering a cool and steady breakdown filled with statistics that highlighted violent crime rates in cities that push defunding policies, all while slipping in a sharp reminder about the hypocrisy of celebrities who hire off-duty police officers while preaching the wonders of community-based safety measures. His style was so calm and almost bored, like someone who has explained the same facts 1,000 times to people who simply nod, smile, and then forget everything the moment they see something trendier on TikTok. Then Greg delivered the final blow, a single sentence that didn't just land, it exploded. And suddenly the mood on The View shifted from passionate debate to frantic damage control. Sunny tried pivoting with Olympic-level mental gymnastics, tossing out vague talking points and hoping no one would notice that her entire argument had just burst into flames on national television. But the internet noticed instantly, and so did the ratings. That's when Tyrus, the calm storm, dropped one more reality-packed truth that shattered her remaining defenses, proving he didn't need to shout or wave his arms like someone auditioning for a superhero role. He simply delivered facts with quiet precision, leaving the show scrambling for balance.
The problem is that you have to go after the racist people, and if be the CEO goes, you know what, I'm not going to allow a woman on my show or man that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racist on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Yeah, you know, Emily.
He delivered his points with a street-level sharpness that only comes from seeing real life without the polished filter of media privilege, creating a contrast so intense it practically shook the room. This wasn't scripted rhetoric perfected under expensive lighting or shaped to impress a studio audience. It was raw truth wrapped in firm, no-nonsense logic that hit harder than anything Sunny expected. Tyrus struck where it hurt most, not just challenging her ideology, but calling out the privilege she and other media elites love hiding behind, especially when pretending to speak for people they barely understand. While Sunny played the role of voice of the oppressed, Tyrus reminded everyone of a harsh reality. She has about as much in common with the average working-class person as she does with a reality TV star, and no one speaks for people in the trenches when their biggest concern is brunch with Anna Navarro. Tyrus delivered this almost casually, turning it into the kind of truth that forces someone to rethink every argument they've ever made, especially when the person delivering it is wearing a simple tee TV while they're sitting there trying to wear moral superiority like an oversized cape. Sunny's reaction was pure silence, absolute crickets, as she scrambled internally for anything that could save her dignity, while Joy Behar quietly whispered abort mission in the background like an off-screen command no one dared to ignore.
Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
And when the facts started hitting Sunny harder than she expected, she pulled the classic Sunny Houston escape move, flipping instantly from confident intellectual powerhouse to a self-declared victim of hostility, as if she had been unfairly targeted instead of being confronted with her own contradictions. The moment Tyrus and Greg delivered their sharply factual reality checks, Sunny transformed into the person who starts a fight and then cries when someone finally pushes back, accusing them of being inflammatory even though she had been stirring the flames long before they spoke. The truth was simple. Sunny had already set the stage on fire while pretending she was calmly observing from the sidelines, and she loves throwing punches only when she believes no one will return them. Her entire attitude of moral superiority crumbled the second she was told she was standing on quicksand rather than solid ground, and you could practically hear her internal panic screaming, "Wait, I thought I was supposed to be the one giving the lectures. How is this happening to me?" The irony was undeniable. The moment things became too real, she swapped debate for victimhood, leaving the same woman who criticized others for lacking empathy suddenly crying about being attacked, creating a spectacle that stunned everyone watching.
So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the view's gravitational pull.
And then there was the audience, the poor and bewildered group caught in the middle of this live TV train wreck, unsure whether they should clap, laugh, or duck under their seats as the show spiraled out of control. As expected, social media erupted within minutes, transforming Sunny's meltdown into the newest viral meme across Twitter, where the internet did what it always does best: roast the rich, the powerful, and the overly confident until the moment becomes digital history. Suddenly, Sunny wasn't just a co-host having a bad day. She became a symbol of how fast a wall of self-righteousness can collapse when confronted with actual substance instead of applause. After such a chaotic disaster, you'd think The View would at least acknowledge what happened, maybe even offer a moment of reflection, but instead they chose their favorite strategy: pretend it never took place and move on. The very next episode became a masterclass in avoidance, opening with a cheerful segment about dogs doing yoga, as if a stretching puppy could magically erase the meltdown everyone had witnessed the day before. They acted completely normal, casually sliding from Sunny's tense collapse into celebrity gossip, with zero mention of the debate, zero accountability, and a level of gaslighting so polished it could qualify as an Olympic sport. It's honestly astonishing how effortlessly they maintain that illusion, and even more exhausting to imagine doing it while claiming to be experts on absolutely everything.
Of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them, Dana? And it is funny, she is so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
But here's why all of this matters. The show represents one of the loudest examples of a media echo chamber, a place where a group of self-assured panelists sit comfortably and congratulate each other for sharing opinions based more on emotions than actual facts, creating an environment where disagreement is treated like a threat rather than a chance for real conversation. Gutfeld and Tyrus didn't just roast Sunny, they exposed the entire style of commentary the show relies on, revealing how out of touch it can become when people pretend to speak for the working class while sitting in a cushy studio far removed from the reality they claim to understand. Sunny's meltdown wasn't only a personal collapse, it served as a public reminder that arrogance and long emotional rants can't drown out the truth forever, no matter how passionately they're delivered. So when you look back at the whole moment, the pattern is clear. Sunny began with a smug attitude. Gutfeld calmly demolished her argument with solid facts. Tyrus dropped even more hard-hitting truths. And then Sunny retreated into a mass of tangled word salad that couldn't hide how badly the exchange went. In the end, it felt almost poetic, because in the ongoing battle between reality and the show's carefully protected bubble, reality finally managed to grab a little screen time, and it was absolutely glorious.